The cranial nerves are 12 pairs of nerves that can be seen on the ventral or bottom surface of the brain. Some of these nerves bring information from the sense organs to the brain, while other cranial nerves control muscles. Other cranial nerves are connected to glands or internal organs such as the heart and lungs. Cranial nerve 1, olfactory, functions in smell. Cranial nerve 2, optic, sensory impulses for sight. Cranial nerve 3, oculomotor, for motor nerves, raises eyelids, rotates eyes, adjusts amount of light. Cranial nerve 4 is the trochlear, the smallest cranial nerve, and it helps control eye movement. The fifth cranial nerve is the trigeminal. It is the largest cranial nerve, sensory input for touch and pain from the face and chewing. Cranial nerve 6 is the abducens. It originates from the pons, controls abduction of the eyes, moves the eyes away from the nose. Cranial nerve 7, facial, controls facial expressions, impulses to salivary glands, impulses to taste receptors. Cranial nerve 8 is the vestibulocochlear sensory nerve with 2 branches. The cochlear branch is responsible for hearing, and the vestibular branch is responsible for balance. Cranial nerve 9 is the glossopharyngeal. It controls the tongue and the pharynx. Cranial nerve 10 is the vagus nerve. It carries impulses from the throat, esophagus, thorax, and abdomen to the brain. Motor fibers supply the heart and many smooth muscles and glands. Cranial nerve 11 is the accessory nerve. It carries impulses to the muscles of the throat, muscles to the back and neck. It controls muscles used in head movement. Cranial nerve 12 is the hypoglossal, motor nerve. Moves the tongue in speaking, chewing, and swallowing. The senses connect humans to the real world, allowing us to interpret what is happening around us and respond accordingly. The color of the sky at dusk, the sound of laughter at a party, the scent of eucalyptus and pine, the taste of freshly baked bread, all would be meaningless without the senses. They not only provide pleasure, but they warn of danger. The senses, such as gustation for taste, olfaction, smell, audition for hearing, equilibrium for balance, and vision, represent the special senses. They are special because each sense has its own pathway to the central nervous system. Olfactory receptors located in the olfactory organs are specialized chemoreceptors in the nasal cavity. They are bipolar neurons surrounded by ciliated columnar cells. These sensory cells, after being stimulated by olfactory sensations, send nerve impulses along the olfactory cranial nerve 1 to the cerebrum. About 10,000 taste buds occur in the oral cavity, mostly on the tongue. Each taste bud contains 40 to 60 taste receptors. These sensory cells are stimulated by taste sensations. Chemical substances from the food or beverages enter the mouth and are dissolved in the saliva. Dissolved chemical substances stimulate various taste buds in different regions of the tongue, and combinations of taste sensations produce hundreds of different taste sensations. The sensory cells then send nerve impulses through the facial nerve, cranial nerve 7, the glossopharyngeal nerve, cranial nerve 9, and the vagus nerve, cranial nerve 10, to the cerebrum. The 4 primary taste sensations are sweet, which is sensitive at the tip of the tongue, sour, most sensitive at both sides of the tongue, and salty, most sensitive at the sides and the tip of the tongue, or bitter, which is the most sensitive at the back of the tongue. Accessory structures of the eye are those that are not directly related to the sense of vision. Eyebrows are to shade the eyes from sunlight and to prevent perspiration from reaching the eyes. Eyelids are to protect the eyes from foreign objects, such as dust, and to prevent desiccation or drying of the eyes by lubricating fluid. The lacrimal gland is the exocrine gland that secretes a dilute saline solution called tears for moistening the eyes. Tears contain mucus, antibodies, and antibacterial enzymes that protect the eye from infections. Emotional tears also contain enzymes that seem to help reduce stress levels. More details about the eye can be located in the book. Two types of photoreceptors are found on the neural layer: rods, which detect tones of visual images, and cones, which detect colors. These sensory cells, after being stimulated by visual sensations, send nerve impulses through the optic nerve, which is cranial nerve 2, to the occipital lobe of the cerebrum. The gross anatomy of the human ear includes the outer ear, which consists of the auricle and external auditory meatus, the middle ear, which consists of the tympanic membrane and auditory ossicles, and the inner ear, which consists of the cochlea, 3 semicircular canals, and the vestibulocochlear nerves. The outer ear is responsible for transferring sound waves from the environment to the middle ear. The middle ear is responsible for amplifying sound waves into strong signals for the hearing receptors to detect. The inner ear is responsible for using mechanoreceptors to detect stimuli for hearing in cochlea and equilibrium in semicircular canals, and send the nerve impulses through the vestibulocochlear nerve, which is cranial nerve 8, to the brain.